So now we're going to talk about modulators, carriers, algorithms, and ratios. 4 terms that probably sound a little rough on the ears at the moment, but which will actually be very simple once we go through a couple things. In subtractive synthesis, the approach to sound design is similar to a sculptor working a piece of marble. The oscillators create the marble, and the patch creator chisels off what they want to lose in order to make a sound. FM, however, is more like painting. Mixing oscillators and their relationships in some ways is like mixing paints. One shade of red and one shade of blue can make a million variations, and likewise, 2 oscillators or more mixed together can create a million tones. Too many colors thrown together, just to keep this analogy going for a little bit, can give a very muddy result, and likewise, if FM is used in an uninformed or haphazard manner, it can create similar situations. So it's best to start really simple here, adding small amounts until you find sweet spots. The relationship between 2 oscillators, in its simplest, is referred to as a modulator and carrier relationship. The carrier is the oscillator which we hear, whose output is going to the synthesizer's output section. So here's a raw sine wave in operator. The modulator is applied in various amounts to the carrier to create a more complex waveform. The modulator is adding what are called harmonic overtones or sidebands, and this is why the sound changes. The difference in pitch between the 2 oscillators is one of the main factors defining the character of the resulting sound. If the modulator is of a higher pitch than the carrier, the resulting interaction will add brightness to the carrier, with extremely high pitches adding metallic tones and sheen. If the modulator is lower in pitch than the carrier, the resulting sound will have a darker quality, often with characteristics that are not unlike an LFO, in that there's an audible repeating motion to the sound. The pitch differential, or ratio, is one of the reasons why digital FM is so much easier to use in creating predictable tones than analog FM. To get harmonically pleasing, musical stable tones, the modulator needs to be tuned to a step in the harmonic scale relative to the carrier's frequency, which is referred to as the fundamental, and these oscillators need to track the keyboard reliably. Analog FM is inherently then a little erratic for the exact reason why analog sounds are so pleasing to begin with. They're mildly unstable because they're based on electrical circuits. Ratios are designed to simplify the tuning relationship and are expressed as the formula C to M, and we'll just quickly go over a couple and how they work and why, so that we can then get on with making sounds and not doing math. If the modulator is at the same pitch as the carrier, it's at the first harmonic. The second harmonic is reached by doubling the frequency of the modulator, which is conveniently up 12 semitones or an octave from the fundamental, the carrier's frequency. The ratio that corresponds to this relationship is a simple mathematic one, 1 to 2, as in the modulator is twice the frequency of the carrier. F-expansion cipher conveniently has harmonic tuning for FM synthesis, even though it's a virtual analog synth. This is certainly not the norm, but is great for demonstration of this concept because we can basically toggle back and forth from harmonic tuning to equal or semitone tuning and back again. I'll put the oscillators into harmonic tuning mode for now, and I'll take oscillator 3, the modulator, which is performing FM on oscillator 2, the carrier, and tune it up to the second harmonic. Now I'll flick it back to equal mode, which allows us to work in semitones, and we can see that the oscillator is tuned up 12 semitones. So this all seems easy enough. In this case, the modulator has twice the frequency that the carrier does, and the results are pleasing. The third harmonic is where things get a little tricky, though. I'll do the same trick in cipher. Here we have the oscillators in harmonic tuning mode, and the third oscillator is tuned up to the third harmonic. When I flick it back into equal mode, or semitone mode, something slightly counterintuitive has happened. Although the second harmonic was an octave up from the fundamental, simply going up another octave takes us not to the third harmonic, but to the fourth. The third harmonic is actually located at 19.02 semitones up from the fundamental. This is a perfect fifth on the musical scale and is expressed as 1 to 3. This type of tuning can be hard to keep track of, obviously, and it's certainly hard to quickly configure, which is one of the reasons why dedicated digital FM synths take a slightly different approach to oscillator tuning, allowing for tuning based on steps in the harmonic scale as opposed to semitones. In all honesty, unless you're performing FM on analog-style synths, you'll probably never need to know what an integer value means, or why 19.02 semitones up sounds musically better than 18.9, as these relationships will be predefined in the tuning options in your digital synth. FM synths like the hardware Yamaha DX series and its software brethren FM8 and Operator are capable of very complex relationships between modulators and carriers, allowing for a literally infinite amount of variation in sound. These relationships are referred to as algorithms, and you can think of them as basically being pre-patched routings to ease your workflow. As an example, Operator has 11 algorithms to work with. In this example, operators A and C are the carriers, and B and D are the modulators. In this one, we can see a modulation of a modulator, as operator B is a carrier being modulated by operator C, but C is also functioning as a carrier being modulated by operator D. Operator A is unmodulated and just goes straight to the output. So to recap, operators in FM synthesis can take on multiple roles, described by the terms modulator and carrier. In most circumstances, when an operator is performing FM on another operator, the first is referred to as the modulator, and the second, the recipient, is referred to as the carrier. Sometimes a modulator can also be a carrier, though, depending on the configuration of the operators and their output. These configurations can be dialed up quickly through the use of algorithms, which are arrangements of routing similar to a template, and are represented often by block diagrams. The nature of the resulting sound is controlled in part by the ratio, which is an expression representing the tuning of an oscillator in relation to the carrier. The higher the ratio, the higher the pitch of the modulating operator, and the brighter the quality of the resulting sound.